You're listening to Unfiltered with Muhammad Uncut, a podcast about personal growth and authentic leadership. If you're looking for tips on how to manage others, get ahead, and make your way up the corporate ladder, this is not the show for you. This podcast is about being of service to others, leading from the heart, and evolving into a better version of yourself. Each episode brings you motivated stories about unfiltered leadership and authentic leaders, those who involve others, use their influence to amplify diverse perspectives, and inspire teams to achieve collective results. If this sounds like you, keep listening. Welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast. Unfiltered is the podcast for leaders who involve others, use their influence to help them rise, and inspire them to become better versions of themselves. The Unfiltered Podcast showcases leaders who lead from the heart to make a positive change. We have an unfiltered leader who is making a positive change in Uganda, Ashaba Faridah. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you, Muhammad, for having me here today.
Ashaba, we're going to get right into it. I was so inspired by listening to your TEDx talk and learning more about the changes that you're making in your homeland, what you're doing in your local villages, but also the impact that is helping to make around the world with the message that you're spreading. Can you tell us, who is Ashaba Faridah in your own words?
Ashaba Faridah is a pilot based in Uganda, that is East Africa. I am currently training for my multi-engine rating and instrument rating. I'm one of the few lady pilots. I think we are maybe 10 or less than 10 in a country with 44 million people in general. So that gives you a scale of how very few we are. And I'm also the founder and CEO of Bambino Life Foundation, an organization that promotes girl child education and empowerment in rural parts of Uganda, but also it also creates awareness about children living with disabilities and generally caters for the welfare of children. I am also the managing director of STEM Queens, an initiative that promotes science, technology, engineering, and mathematics that encourages young girls to participate in those fields. And I am a global Goodwill ambassador, and I was also named a Woman Innovator 2019 by the UN International Women in the Impossible to Ignore campaign, which featured other incredible women from across the world. We were 9 women that were selected. The campaign was shown across the world from places like New York, London, in over 2 million impressions. And the space was donated by big media companies around the world. Yes. In summary, that is it. If I leave out the rest, and I'm also a TEDx speaker and an international speaker.
Well, you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to me having you on the show today, an inspiration to the young women that you meet. We're going to learn more about that. And I believe you're an inspiration to just us in general, because you've done so much at such a young age. You've been able to accomplish so much, becoming a role model, becoming the CEO of your own company, having a TEDx talk to your name, spreading your message on what we can do to empower and enable others to become better and to believe that they can become better. And that's where I want to go with this right now. Do you see yourself as a leader?
Yes, I am a leader, because most of the positions I just mentioned are actually leadership positions. And yes, I am a leader.
Can you explain to us what leadership means to you?
Leadership to me means the ability to not only lead, but also inspire and motivate people towards working a similar goal or towards working a certain goal. And basically just being your authentic self and having people who are inspired by what you do follow and try to do the same thing with you. So for me, leadership is the ability to motivate, lead, but also inspire people towards a certain goal or similar goal.
Right. And it's important for us to understand when you say inspire, and learning more about you, you not only share words and visions about how people can do things better and become better, you actually have programs and initiatives and resources to help the young people that you're working with believe that they can make the change. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer that, but I think it's important for us to frame the work that you're doing. You go into villages where there are young girls. Actually, I'm going to ask you to explain, because you explained it to me before. I'd like to know what exactly you do, and then the change that you're making. Can you explain to me as you have before?
Well, in Bambino Life Foundation, one of the missions we have, like I said, is promoting girl child education and empowerment. And what we try to look at is we try to see some of the reasons why girls drop out of school. That includes early marriages, early pregnancies, menstrual health, period, the poverty. Actually, there is something like that, and lack of finances. So before we tell them about the dreams that they can achieve, we have to look at the reason why they drop out of school, and we go to the root of the cause. That is what we try to see. And of course, one of the areas that we normally go to are rural areas. So different parts of rural areas in Uganda, or what you could call a village, or what some other people can call the countryside, because usually in towns, girls are given more opportunities. They have all these options that are presented to them. They know they can be a doctor, they know they can be this, and most of the times even their parents can afford that, which is very different from girls in rural areas. They do not have these options, and they do not have awareness around the dreams that they can achieve or what they cannot achieve. So they dream based on their circumstances. Even when you ask a girl what she wants to be, you hear answers like, I want to get married. Like, that is an achievement to them, not in a way that it's not an achievement, but to them it's more like, if I get married, I could get someone who has a little bit of money and that could sustain me. So we try to remove that. We try to give them this option where they can stay in school, and then after school they can be able to dream of other possible things that they can do in life. And one of the things that we have been doing, actually a project, is teaching them hand skills. And what we teach are girls, we teach them on how to make reusable sanitary pads, which is one of the reasons why most girls drop out of school, because they cannot afford them. Then we teach them how to make things like liquid soap and a few other skills. We believe that these skills promote developmental sustainability, communities that do not only rely on donations, but are able to also, it's a long-term goal. When you leave, are these people able to fend for themselves? That is what we're trying to look at. So when you empower them with skills, you're giving them that, option or the ability to be able to empower themselves financially, actually, because if they do this and then they sell these things, they're able to get money, put themselves through school, but also reduce on the numbers of the girls that drop out of school because they cannot afford sanitary pads. Because when you teach one girl how to make a sanitary pad, she teaches the entire homestead. In Africa, we have a saying that you teach a girl and you teach a village, which is very true, because when you teach one girl, she's going to teach her entire family. And for us, that is promoting developmental sustainability. Of course, also using my career as a platform, I try to inspire the girls and let them know that they have the ability to be anything they want to be, and they shouldn't limit their dreams based on their surroundings. Because if I, a Ugandan girl, can be a pilot, then also them as Ugandan girls, they have the ability to be a pilot. And also most of the girls have actually never met a pilot. So when you tell them that you are a pilot, most of them can't even believe it because it sounds so foreign. In the town schools, they understand, but in the villages, it's such a foreign concept. So when you say you're a pilot, it gives them this kind of, oh, wow, there are bigger dreams that I can actually be able to achieve. Yeah.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. When you're going into these villages, and the most of these girls have, the options that they have before them, they're so immediate. They all look around, and the only role model that they've seen are young girls who are married, and that's their out. That's their option. That's their dream. And what you're saying is there's something different. And I don't want to use the word more. I want to use the word different. You're giving them options. And you're saying your only option is not just this, but you're saying you can do so much more. And you're an immediate role model. They can see someone that they can relate to, someone who has been through the same circumstances that they have, someone that understands their circumstances, their life situation, and they have these options before them. You can explain it to them in terms that are not only relatable and immediate, but they're personal and they're also organic to their situation. I think that's really important for a lot of us, maybe here in the West. And I know that we deal with problems here as well, but it's unfathomable to us to recognize and to realize what these young women are dealing with. You go into villages where some of these young women don't have shoes. They don't have basic necessities, right? You're teaching them how to take care of themselves by making menstrual pads, right? These are sanitation pads just to help them, sanitary pads to help them be healthier. Because if they can't make that healthy choice, they can get sick, they can die. And you're giving them the option to first focus on their health, but you're enabling them and you're liberating them and helping them to make that decision where they are in power of their own well-being. And I think that that's really powerful. It's hard to come in as a helicopter solution and say, hey, look, this is what you can be. Here's a dream up here. But you're coming in and saying, you know what? First, take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you that you love. Spread that vision of healthiness. And then once we can control that vision of healthiness, it's within our sphere of influence, we can go further and continue to build and evolve. That's really powerful. Let me ask you, what inspires you to want to do this work?
So one of the things that I am, I'm spiritual, and I tend to focus on the spiritual side of things more than the physical side of things. And I believe each and every one of us has a purpose as to why they're here on earth. And I believe each and every one of us is supposed to leave the world a better place than they found it. But for me, when it comes to charity and helping, besides having been in that place of lack and knowing what it means not to have something and wanting to be able to help with the little I have, the other thing has always been knowing that it's a calling, a deep calling within me, knowing that this is my purpose here, to be able to look beyond myself, or actually to inspire other people to also look beyond themselves and see how they can be the change that, you know, they crave or that they want, knowing that it all starts with you. Even if it's something as small as helping one child, it's going to be a chain reaction whereby if you help that person, they may be also helping the other people, things like that. I think for me, it's always been a calling deep down that I felt like, you know, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help. I'm supposed to reach out and do the best that I can. But more than anything, change is supposed to start with me.
And you just took the words right out of my mouth as I'm listening to you. Change has to start with us. You know, we have to recognize what is it within our area of influence. We aren't defined by our circumstances, but these young girls don't necessarily know that. All they see is a world of circumstance, and they don't see what they, you know, beyond their immediate surroundings. What options do they have? But here's a young woman who looks like them, who speaks the same story, the same journey, and comes in and tells them, I know what you are going through because I have gone through it. And you can also aspire and achieve more. And I believe that's part of the role of being a leader, is inspiring them to believe, but also to accomplish. But you also give them the resources, right? So your organization and the different initiatives that you're involved with, you give them resources. Can you please explain to me about that?
So when we do go down to train, like I said, one of the reasons why girls drop out of school is lack of sanitary, you know, materials to use. So besides creating awareness around that, we teach them, and we do not only teach girls, sometimes we also teach the boys who are available, because we believe there shouldn't be a stigma around this. And also boys have sisters, they have wives, they have, actually not wives, but they have mothers, they have grandmothers, women who need this.
They will eventually have wives. Yeah.
So if you teach a boy also to do these things, it helps. So we teach them how to make reusable sanitary pads. We teach them how to make mosquito repellent soap sometimes, and then also we teach them how to make liquid soap. These are small ventures that they can also afford themselves because the materials are not that expensive. But whenever we go and we teach them, we always go with excess material that we leave for them to start with, like something to start. If you have a project that you want to start with that. But more than anything, I think since last year, we partnered with an organization that it's based in the Netherlands, and it's called Care Plus, and they are leading in malaria, anti-malarials. So because also one of the reasons why children don't stay in school is malaria. It's very, very common here, and it's very, very deadly actually. So many children lose their lives to malaria. So we donate mosquito nets too. We donate mosquito nets in these places that we go, because if you're going to make sure that someone is safe, make sure that they're really safe from everything. If you're giving them sanitary pads, they also have nets, so they don't have to go to hospital because of malaria. Children do not have to die from malaria. Yeah, so those are some of the resources we do. And the organization isn't big in itself, because most of us as volunteers, even I myself, we thrive off goodwill, or it's us giving. Like, you take out of your own money and you want to pay forward and help. Same as the volunteers, they come in and they say, you know what, I really want to help my society. This is the one I'm giving back. And maybe a bit of fundraising. So it's not that large scale, but it's something that is honest, and it's something that is coming from deep within us, where we really want to be able to help, and be able to see our societies become better.
You're empowering people to know that this is a community effort. It's right. And what you're doing is you're giving them the opportunity, the options to dream and to believe that they can become like you. You can be a role model. Say, look, I became a pilot. I became the CEO of a company. I became a change agent in my community. But you recognize, and this is a very smart point of what you've done, is you recognize that if you're not healthy, if you're not taking steps to be healthy physically and mentally, emotionally, you're not going to realize any of those dreams. You're not going to understand what your options are. So, and again, that is maybe not as relatable to somebody in the West or in Europe, because of the level of privilege that we have. We don't see just how basic some of these requirements are. And for you to become a role model and a leader in your community, you understand that I have to give these basic necessities. Now, tell me a bit about your background and what you've done, what you've gone through to get you to where you are. Who have been some of the inspirations in your life?
Well, I grew up with a single mother, and my background was humble. I wouldn't say, actually, compared to the girls that we go and visit, I wouldn't say it has been that poor, because no matter how humble it was, my mother was able to provide to make sure that we go to at least good schools. It's me and my young sibling, my brother, and she made sure that she would work hard. She would do everything she could. I saw her trying her level best to make sure that we had, very good education. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here speaking this English with you or anything like that. But she made sure that we got that quality education. And I actually didn't know that I was going to be a pilot. One of the things, the reason why is because I didn't know that in my country we train pilots, because I had not known any women pilots. Actually, I grew up not knowing that we had any female pilots. I didn't know we trained pilots. And one of the things that I wanted to be an interior and landscape designer. That is what I thought I would be. And then from that, it shifted to trying to be a chef, which I know I can do now after. I think these are small courses if you really want to. But so after high school, I was supposed to do a diploma in flight operations and management. And an uncle came around and told us about this program about aviation. So I go to this school. I'm going to do my diploma. And well, within the school, the first thing that they usually do is orientation. They take you around the school. You get to see, you learn how the school is. And I remember when they took us to the hangars to see the planes, I saw one of the ladies, land a plane and get out of it. And when I saw her, it was so inspiring seeing a woman do that, because I'd never seen it. And when I saw that, I knew that this is what I wanted to be. And from there, it was hard to change my mind, because it took me seeing her to change my entire narrative of what I wanted to be. And well, of course, in a school, you get to interact with people, and then daily you talk to someone and you realize, there isn't anything that different from them and you. If they can do it, then you can definitely do it. So then I had to chase a scholarship because I could not afford it. Aviation is actually really expensive. It's not only even here in Uganda or Africa, the world in general, aviation is quite an expensive industry. So I had to chase a scholarship. I took 2 years to get that scholarship. It was on the verge of when I said, you know what, this is the last time. If I don't get it, I give up. That is when it finally came through for me. And that is when I finally got the scholarship. And well, I got my private pilot license, my commercial pilot license, and right now I'm currently training for my multi-engine rating and instrument rating. That has been my journey on the aviation side.
What an incredible story. And when you think about it, your first role model was really your mother, right? And
Yes.
a lot of us don't look to the most immediate people in our life that they can be those role models. And then you saw this woman pilot land the plane, and now you walk into these villages and young girls are seeing you as their role model. How empowering is that to you?
Well, honestly, I do not want to lie to you. It's not something that I see as, I'm going to be an inspiration or something like that. Like I said, it is something that I've always felt like it's a calling. But I've always felt like, if I have the ability to present these young girls with options, it may not be much. And I always feel like I'm not doing anything, actually. I think that is something that I need to work on, maybe. But I always feel like I'm not doing enough. It's always, the volunteers that I have that always say, you know what, you're doing something. But whenever I'm on ground, I feel like this is not enough. I should be doing much more than this. I should be doing much more than that. And when these girls come up to me and they talk to me and maybe say, what you said has made me realize I can be something else, it gives me joy to know that in that short moment I could have changed someone's life, even if it's one or two. That is what I always try to hope for, because it took me seeing someone to be here, and yet I believe I could be inspiring more than 10 girls out there. So I believe also me, among those 2 girls or the 3 girls, if I see their future, I see them as also people who will reach a time and inspire more people because they had someone who inspired them. So I see it as something that, keeps on unfolding like that. But yeah, I feel I've impacted some girls because of the stories that I get to hear. I've seen some girls enter aviation because of the story they had me share. And yeah, I think that it is a good feeling. It is a good feeling to know that you're doing something.
Well, as you say, in a country of 44 million people, there are 10 female pilots, and you're going into these villages and showing these girls that they can dream, and those dreams can take off, and you're giving them hope. You're showing them how it can be done. You're teaching them self-care, but you're also saying, you know what? You have options. And that's an incredible story to tell, whether you're in Africa or whether you're anywhere else in the world. It's important. And I think about the need for a Black woman like yourself to be a relatable and relevant role model for these young women. How important do you feel it is for us to have these relatable role models? A lot of people might look to you and say, oh, I bet your role model was Oprah. I love Oprah, but or Michelle Obama, right? Can you explain to me, how relatable is that to somebody, to one of these girls in these villages?
Well, I would say, of course, the first answer that most girls give, if I'm not even mistaken, if you go to some of the schools or universities in the in the city side, and you ask the girls who their role model is, most of the people will tell you Oprah because, you know, she's international and everyone knows Oprah, or they'll tell you Michelle Obama or many women of color in the States or in Europe, anywhere. But the thing is that when it comes down to it, and realistically speaking, most of them are not as relatable. And I do not mean in a way that they have not achieved so much, they've really achieved so much. But to an African or to an average African girl, they go through different, you know, things. Like I would say, and what most people actually expect me to say whenever they ask me, I always dodge this question a lot when they always ask me who inspires me. And sometimes I just say Oprah because I feel like that is the answer they want, you know, they really want it. But the truth is that my journey and hers are very, very different. Even though she might have grown up in a difficult environment or in a humble background, her humble background here may be a middle class. So that would be a good class. You understand? It's never going to be on the same level of poverty where you're looking at girls. Most of the villages where we go, girls walk up to 2 kilometers every morning to go to school, to attend school. They have to go back home and cook lunch. They have to get that lunch. Sometimes they do not even have meals. So they're always missing out on so much because of the journey they have to make from their homes to school. And so when you say that, and then you compare it with someone who at least had a car or at least had a bus or at least had a train, those are two different struggles. To someone who does not have shoes, someone who does not have a meal, someone who goes like 2 days without an actual meal. So when I talk about relatable role models, especially in that TEDx talk that I had, I was referring to African girls having African women role models that they can look up to and be able to say, okay, you know what? She comes from my country. If she can do it, I can definitely do it. But this was not only limited to Africa, because when you look also in the States, the women or the young girls, women of color or girls of color, I don't know whether that's even the way to say it, when they look up to ladies like Oprah or Obama, Michelle, they say, okay, you know what? This is my relatable role model, because maybe we both grew up in, I'm just giving an example, maybe Maryland, we both went there, and I know we have the same economies and all of that. So if she achieved it, I can also achieve it. So it's giving role models in worldwide, where girls can be able to see themselves in someone and relate to the things that they went through. Just like I said earlier, like Malala, you know, she went through so much, you know, she dodged a bullet. I think she was shot. And what she's been doing is she's been fighting for the rights of these girls back home. She comes from a place of, I know this, I experienced this. She's not talking from a place of, I read about this,
Right.
I know about wars, I see movies about wars. She's talking about, I have been in a war, I know what a war means. When she comes out and says that, the girl in a war zone will understand and really relate to her, because she'll be like, okay, this person really understands my struggles. That is what I meant with the relatable role models, giving girls, women, where they can see themselves, this entire situation from either life will do anything, but someone you can relate to. And that is what I meant.
And it's important when we can look at another person. So if I, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, I apologize, as a Black woman, it's very relatable to you to look at another Black woman and see the same journey that she's gone through. But I love the example that you gave with Malala, because not all role models and not all examples have to be defined by our ethnicity or our color or even our language. Sometimes it can be our circumstance. And I can understand the relatable circumstances of these young women in the village who are probably facing some sort of there's a lack of liberty that I'm hearing, right? You know, when a young girl, her only aspiration is to get married at a certain age, it's no different than the lack of liberty that Malala was facing. She could not go to school if, you know, she had to dodge bullets because she wanted to choose to go to school. You're giving these young girls options, relatable options in their circumstances. Say you can break through from the poverty, you can break through from the health issues that you're facing, and you can do more. You can look at me, I've gone further, and you can go further. And I think that's important. So it's important for us to recognize that these role models have to be impactful for us so that we can realistically look beyond the few meters of our immediate surroundings and recognize that that dream is within reach. And you're showing them that, no different than when you saw that woman come down from the plane and you saw a female pilot in your own country, in your own surroundings, and you said, I can be like her. I will be like her. And you became like her. And those young girls can say the same thing. There's Ashaba. I want to be like her. I can be like her, and I will be like her. And you took that message of female empowerment to the TEDx stage. Can you explain that to us?
Yes. So the TEDx that I had was in Kigali, which is Rwanda. That is our neighboring country. And I had the privilege to meet some of the most amazing speakers from across different parts of the world that I've made long-term friendships with. What the topic that I had then was actually giving young girls relatable role models. And I was talking about what we just talked right now. And also one thing that I wanted to talk about, like you said previously, it is not only when it comes to role models, they may not only be, the same color, because what I've noticed, especially from my journey, you do not have one role model until they change. They keep changing according to the different levels that you take on. When I was starting, it was my mother. When I went to a certain level, it was this other lady that I saw. When I enter business, it will be some other woman there. But the truth is, from the starting point, or when I look at the starting point, when I say these young girls, at the starting point of that journey, they will need someone who is going through the same circumstance as them. And then when they reach a certain level where now they are trying to achieve their dreams, they'll now see someone else, no longer this other person. So the role models will keep changing. Just like they'll reach a certain time and then they'll relate to international role models, because then they'll be in that capacity of seeing themselves achieve that. So role models keep changing as we grow. It's never set in stone that you only have one role model. That is what I think, actually, that is what happened for me. And so that is what I talked about, relatable role models, girls being able to see themselves in these, women that they look up to on so many levels, so many, backgrounds, how they were brought up, how they live through life, and all those things. There has to be a bit of relatability. I don't know if that is even a word, but to be relatable, to be able to be relatable, or have the ability to be relatable, and not just be some, because even in the outreaches we do, I'm always on ground. I could choose not to be on ground. I could choose to let the volunteers that I work with on my team go, but I'm always on ground because I'm trying to paint that particular picture where I myself am able to go and talk to these girls. I want them to have different options to see, but it's not only even targeted at the girls. I want the parents too, because if my mother had not worked hard, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I also want parents who are there, the ladies who are there, who are, I always do this. Whenever we go for the outreaches, we have these young mothers who gave birth when they were young. The first thing that I tell them is you have to work hard for your child, because this is the person, or the child is the one that is going to save you in the future. They're going to do so many things for you in the future. So I always look at that ability whereby not only inspiring these young girls, but also their parents, because some of the marriages are not the girls is wanting. Some parents marry their children off young because they want that dowry price, they want a bit of money. But if they
That's their option for a better life.
Yes, but then it's forced marriages, it's forced young marriages. They're taking away this dream. So even if I talk to the girl, it may not be enough if the parents are not on the board. So if the parents see that, oh, actually we have a lady who was raised up by a single mother and she's doing these things, I can also do the same for my child. Because at the end of the day, every parent wants the best for their child. So we are giving that. When I do that, it's not only for the girls, but also for the parents, to provoke that of, am I doing enough for my child? I should do better. They will have better.
Right.
I should make them
changing
priority.
that society is not just changing if you want to focus on enabling and empowering young women, you also have to look at the society and the surroundings that are impacting them. So you can teach a young woman to believe and to achieve, but if her brothers hold her back, don't let her go to school, or if her parents are forcing her into marriage, she can dream all she wants, but she can't achieve her dream.
And so you're
Exactly.
educating an entire community. You're teaching everybody how to fish, and you're giving them the fishing rods, and you're empowering them to say, you can catch big fish. You can make big changes, but that change has to be on a communal level. It can't just be to these young girls. And I think we can fail if we just go into these villages and say, we're going to change how these girls believe they can become better, because we're not changing the structure, the community, the value system that holds these girls back. And, I don't know if you realize just how powerful your message is, how relatable it is to everybody around the world. Circumstances are certainly different to somebody in Uganda than they would be to somebody here in Canada or the United States. But that message of empowering our young women is needed everywhere, because it's changing the mindset of a father, of a brother, of a mother, to say that if we want to see more women in corporate offices, or we want to see more women in positions of leadership, whether they're leading a company or an organization or a community or a household, it means that we have to be change agents and active participants in facilitating those opportunities, and not just sitting back talking about them. And, I think that's the difference between aspiration and achievement. And you are actually helping them achieve, not just aspire. What is a book that has allowed you to aspire, but also to achieve? What is one book that has made that difference for you?
So I've been having different books. I have nice books that I like. I'm actually not one of the people who reads self-help books. Whenever I try, I can't get past the first page. I'm not really good at that. I like a story kind of situation and all of that. And that is why I really love The Alchemist. And it has been a great source of inspiration for me, not only on the physical side. And I feel like if someone is spiritual, that is a book that would make you see everything differently. It will make you think, what is your purpose here in this world? What are you doing? What are the signs? What are you following? What is your fated dream and all of that? So it would be The Alchemist.
I echo your feeling. It's a book that has been coming up in circles of discussion I've been involved in lately. So for those of you who want to read a very inspirational book, relatable, The Alchemist is certainly one that will inspire you to dig a bit deeper and see how the alchemy of change can start with us. So talking about the alchemy of change, this is where I'd like to ask you, Ashaba, what one piece of advice, this is called the unfiltered thought of the week that I share with my listeners. What is one piece of advice that you can give my listeners to help them become better people, better humans, better leaders?
I would say looking past yourself. So I've noticed something in this era where we are, everyone thinks of themselves and only themselves. They do not think of the people who came before. They do not think of the people who are going to come after. It's only myself, what I want right now, which is not really bad. But if everyone thinks like that, then we are at a great danger. I believe having the ability to think beyond yourself, and also the emotional self-awareness is really, really great, because it has worked for me in a way that I know when I'm in wrong, and I know when I'm being too emotional. I know when I'm just, not listening, when I'm not being patient. And it makes me take a step back and realize and reevaluate my choices, my options, rather than just jumping or diving in. And I would also say, but this is not for everyone anyway, but I would feel bad if I didn't say this. Being a spiritual person, I believe trying to connect to your original purpose as to why you're here on this planet, or why, or the change that you can bring about, because we all know that change should begin with us. We all know that if you want to bring about change, or if you want things done a certain way, you have your role to play. It has to start with you in a certain way before it can spread out to others. If you feel like, the environment or things are not going well, personally, I'm an action-based person. So rather than talk about the environment, I would rather go and plant a tree. if someone sees me do that, then the other person will also plant a tree. Anyway, not deviating off, but I would say believing in yourself. That is one of the greatest advice I want to give. And I know it sounds cliche, but believing in yourself is such an amazing thing, because it means that no matter what everyone else around you is going to say, no matter what society expects of you, you are going to supersede that and break all those barriers. You're not going to be confined in your comfort zone. You're going to go out and try to see your limitations, your abilities, and believing in yourself is the way to go. Then you are going to inspire true change, because when you believe in yourself, you're true to yourself and you're authentic to yourself.
And Ashaba, this is why you're an unfiltered leader. You've looked within, you found that authenticity to help you do more, achieve more, but you haven't stopped there. You believe in yourself, but you also look beyond yourself, whether you're looking at your spiritual connection with a greater force, but also with your connection with your community. You could have continued to fly the skies over Uganda as one of the few female pilots, but you've decided to go on foot into villages where young girls have no shelter and no shoes. You've brought programs and initiatives and inspiration to instigate and initiate change in those communities, to empower and to enable young women and to change values and help them become better. And that's why, I'm honored to have you as an unfiltered guest today. I want to thank you for being on the call, sharing your story. And I ask you to please continue doing the great work that you're doing, because one young woman at a time, we will change the world. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Unfiltered, the show about authentic leadership and personal growth. Like what you heard? Click subscribe, share it, and tell a friend about it. And don't forget to leave a rating.